Growing up, did you ever have that one book or TV show character or movie character that you just wanted to be? In every aspect of your life, you looked up to them and you wanted to be them. Well, for me, I'm lucky enough to have that celebrity live in my house, and I get to call her my sister. My older sister Lexi is the funniest, wildest, and most loving woman I know, and there's no one that is quite like her. Lexi is the funniest girl I ever got to be friends with. Little Hailey was amazed every single time we hung out because her stomach always hurt from laughter afterwards. She was everything I wanted to be. She could drive, she had a perfect boyfriend, she was in with the theater kids, which doesn't seem very cool to you guys, but for me, that was like top dog. And about that boyfriend. She had dated him for a year and a half. She was really close with their family, and so close, in fact, that they gave her a garage door opener. Now, that perfect boyfriend wasn't as perfect as we thought, and they ended up breaking up. But she still had that garage door opener. So, whenever we wanted a little bit of fun revenge, we would drive down to his house, click open his garage door, and watch it go up, and watch his mom in his house get all confused and close it back down. We would circle around the block and do it over and over again, laughing just as hard each time. And there were trips where we would go on these loops and probably do it 10 or even 12 times, every time laughing just as hard as before. She was the coolest older sister I could ever ask for, and she's still the funniest girl I know. Together, we would always get up into these wild situations. Now, my favorite wild situation was a story that happened a few years ago when I went to visit her back in Fargo. I told her some upsetting news, and she sat there as she processed it. Then she went to her bedroom, took out a notebook and a pen, and she told me this: "We're making a bucket list because we don't have much time together, and we're going to make the most of what we have." We sat there for a while, making a long list, and I told her about the very top thing that I ever wanted to do: driving through tunnels at night with all the lights from the city and feeling the cold air on my face as I poked my head out of a sunroof. And then about a half an hour later, after making our bucket list, we hear a knock on the door. It's her new boyfriend, Connor. And then he drops a big bomb and says that he has a sunroof. So we all race down to his car and drive to the most tunnely part of town that we can find. And we spend hours just driving through. And it was February in North Dakota, so it was absolutely freezing. And especially feeling all that cold wind on my face, it made me feel alive. Then afterwards, we drove to this beautiful diner. The whole place was 50s themed. And we stayed up until 2 a.m. snacking on appetizers and drinking milkshakes. I'd never laughed more in my life than I did that night. And later when we got home, she hugged me tight, and that's when I realized just how much she really loves me. I never doubted her love for me ever again. She was the most loving person I knew. In the house we lived in back in Fargo, I had a room at the top floor, and it had very little AC. I asked my parents to get me one of those AC units you put in the windows, and they told me they would, under one condition: I had to clean my room first. My room was extremely messy, very, very messy, and I was never going to be able to do it by myself. So, my older sister took a Saturday out of her high school career when she could have been hanging out with her friends and spent the entire day to help me clean my room. I was moody and crabby and complained the entire time, but she was there with me the entire time. She showed me that day just how much she loves me by spending her entire day with me, a middle schooler. And she's still that same compassionate, loving woman I know. In 2022, she came to visit me. She told me she had a surprise. She took me to the guest bedroom and she told me this story. One day in high school, she was having a really horrible day. She got home after a long night and she found a note on her bed. It said, "You should love yourself because I love you. Girly. Hailey." I had written that note and placed it on her bed because I knew how horrible of a day she had been. She kept that note for years in her wallet, folded it up, and looked at it whenever she needed a boost of confidence. And then she showed me her arm. On it, she had tattooed the exact note that I wrote to her, in my handwriting and everything. We shared a sweet moment that day, and it showed me just more of what I already knew. My sister was the most loving woman imaginable. Although my sister never knew it, I looked up to her every single day. If there's one thing you listen to in my speech, if you zone out, stop listening, and you only hear this one thing, let it be this. 1 Corinthians 13:4. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. And it is not proud. My love for my sister is stronger than she will ever know. She is the funniest, wildest, and most loving woman I know, and I've never met someone quite like her. All siblings fight. They argue and they bicker, and we are no exception. But at the end of the day, I would fly to the moon and back just to give her whatever she wants. She has a way about her that makes you believe, even just for a moment, everything's going to be all right. She is one of the most important people in my life, and I'm so glad I can share the small amount of time we have on this earth with her as my sister. Thank you for listening to my speech.